I'm Kat Feingold, and I'm part of the Hydrologic Engineering Center. And today, I'm going to walk you through the basic setup of the Hydrologic Engineering Center's Meteorological Visualization Utility Engine, or HEC MetVue. HEC MetVue facilitates the viewing and manipulation of meteorological data sets, as well as performing a variety of computations and analysis. So let's go ahead and dive in. So in order to get started, what I like to do is first download the software. Always a good place to start, right? So you can get the latest of HEC MetVue off of HEC's website, which can be found here, and will also be in a link below. So you go to the downloads area, and you'll have the latest version of MetVue. Today we're going to be working with MetVue 3.4, the latest release. Once you've downloaded your MetVue, you can go ahead and unzip it and get into the folder. So your folder will come in as a zip, you'll open it up, and in order to open MetVue, you can either use this link here, which is a shortcut to the .exe and will open up MetVue, or you can go to the launch itself, which is inside the bin folder. The other thing I really like to do before getting started on any MetVue project is to go ahead and set up my folder structure so that when I start working with information, I have a really clean place where everything is found. So in order to do that, I set up a new project folder. This particular project is going to be called HEC MetVue Setup. And inside, I create 3 different folders: a folder for data, a folder for my maps, and a folder for any output that I might have later. Inside my maps, I have the shapefiles that I would like available to me. Whether or not I'm going to use them in this particular project, I like to have all of my shapefiles available. You can choose if you want to just put the shapefiles that are for this project, or if you want to put all of your shapefiles in. For this particular project, we're going to be looking at the Savannah River Basin, so we will be using the states, the sub-basin, and the USA map, just to give us all a good idea on where everything is. With that in mind, we can go ahead and open up MetVue. First time you open MetVue, it will have no project open. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to set up a project. Now for just a little bit of familiarization, some of the terms that we're going to be using today, anytime I refer to the Explorer window in MetVue, I'm referring to this section right here in this upper left corner. So the Explorer area, Project Explorer window. Anytime I discuss that we're going to be looking at the Properties window, I'm referring to this lower window here. Now you're going to see your information area, which right now is labeled Output, down here at the very bottom. Right now we don't have anything here yet, but this is going to be where the map windows will show up, right here in the center. And then over here on the far right, you're going to have your legend. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we are going to go File, New Project. Or you can Control N. And we are going to go ahead and browse to the folder that I've created the MetVue folder for. You'll recall I said I go ahead and I set up a folder, so we are going to browse to this folder here where I've already set up my 3 folders, the data, the maps, and the output folder, so that I can make this project nice and clean. So this is now where our project is going to be housed, and we're going to name our project. So this is where we name it. Personally, I like to name it the same thing that my folder is named. However, you can name it whatever you would like, as long as you understand that this is going to be the project name. You cannot change it after this. You can save it as something new, but you cannot change it. Now, with the latest version of MetVue, it comes up with this handy-dandy little reference. So it's a project creation instructions. We are in essence going to follow this step by step. I'm going to remove it from the window though so you can see what I'm doing as opposed to everything else. So once you create a project, you'll notice up here it gives you your path to your project and your project name. And the project itself is called a .MetVue setup. So you notice once you save and you open and create or open a new project, you'll have the project name up here in the top left. It'll give you the entire path to the project that you've just created. And then underneath that, you have the project defaults. So inside MetVue, there is a hierarchy of project, session, map. Again, project, session, map. If you want everything inside your project to have the same defaults, what you want to do is you want to set those up here in this top section. So I want all of this to have the exact same maps available to it. I want it to have the same zones available to it, and I want it to have the same palette. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to add maps to our project. These are the shape files that I mentioned. So I'm going to select maps. Now we're going to have this discussion a little bit later, but you have a map window and then you have the maps that are the background of your project. Those are two separate things with the same name. So here we're going to select the USA shapefile, the states shapefile, and the subbasins reprojected shapefile, because the subbasins reprojected is going to be the watershed, the states, because the subbasin straddles two states, it's going to give you both of those states, and then the USA one will give you everything. Now, one of the things that MetVue does is it will calculate your basin averages. I want only my subbasin, the watershed itself, to be calculated. So I'm going to select that as my basin average. You can always come back in and designate new maps to be basin averages. You don't have to do a lot of work for that. The other thing you can do in this window where you select your maps is identify the default data type for the map. So this one in particular are going to be basin polygons. And then we're going to click OK, and you'll notice they pop up here. This little X with the line over it means that that is one that is going to be calculated basin averages once the data is placed inside of it. So the next step is I want all of my maps to have the same legend and the same palette type that it's going to be working with. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on Project Defaults all the way at the top, and you'll notice that our Properties window now populates. So I want my color scale in this particular aspect, I want it to be a 30 inches max, and I'm going to leave the default. Now, we're going to do a whole nother video on palettes and coloring. These are what are defaulted with the program. You can add and adjust these. But again, for this particular illustration, we're going to go with the precipitation 30-inch max. We're going to leave it in Greenwich Mean Time. Everything else here we're going to leave. So here it has your display units. We're going to display in inches. You can display in a variety of information, as you can see here. However, for us, we're going to view it in inches. And that sets up all of the properties. Now, an interesting thing to point out is that MetVue will automatically save any changes you make. However, if you're like me, I like having that nice little save button because it tells me that my project has been saved. So we've saved our project defaults, we've saved our maps to the map layers, and we've saved the project defaults for the colors and the palette that we're going to see once we add data. So now in order to get data actually viewable, we have a couple more steps. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right-click on the project all the way at the top, your project name, and you're going to click New Session. And now we are going to name this session. Now this is really important. The session that we create is going to house the maps, and the maps are what house the data. So once you create the maps inside a session, you can't move them around. So generally you want a session name to be somewhat descriptive. If you are importing this into your CAVI, into your HEC-CWMS, your session name is going to be the HEC MetVue alternative name that you're going to see. So for us, we are going to be actively mapping Hurricane Helene. So that's what I am going to call this session. Now, personally, I prefer not to have spaces. So I've put an underscore here. Again, it's all up to you. You can have multiple sessions inside of a single project, and you can have multiple maps inside of each individual session. So because later on we may add a different hurricane under a different session, again, I'm going to name this one Hurricane Helene. You'll notice once you click the plus button, you'll come up with your session defaults. These are almost a carbon copy of what you see in your project defaults. Now, if you have not added anything to your project defaults, these will be blank. However, because we did add project defaults, you'll note that the session has the exact same information inside the properties window, and we have the exact same maps available to us, and the same map is being calculated with those subbasin averages once we get data into the map window. The big question, where does one get data in order to import it into MetVue? So MetVue supports a variety of different import types, including GRIB files and NetCDF. It also deals with DSS files. Other TIN files are also available. So we are going to be importing DSS files, DSS grids specifically, into this session. Now, if you are curious where I got the DSS grids that we are going to be utilizing, if you are a core user, you have access to something called USACCE Cumulus. And Cumulus is kind of a one-stop meteorological data archive. You can click on products, and there are numerous products available inside of Cumulus. It tells you whether they're real-time available or forecasting available, and it has the names of them over here. It'll also indicate whether or not the product is currently late, and it will give you the approximate amount of time that these grids span. So earlier, yesterday, I went ahead and I downloaded from the Savannah River Basin the SERFC-QPE, which is the Quantitative Precipitation Estimate. So rain that has already fallen. I went ahead, I clicked the little download button, and it all came down, and I saved it in my data folder, which we discussed earlier that I put together. So I saved the Hurricane Helene DSS, which I named when I downloaded it from the Cumulus site, and saved it right here in my data folder. We'll do another small short on how you can go ahead and find data inside Cumulus and downloading data, but today we're really focused on MetVue, so it's really just kind of a mention that this is here. So our next step, now that we have our session, is to go ahead and create our map window, the actual map window where you are going to import your data to. So we are going to right-click on the session name. And a great thing about MetVue is there are so many tooltips. If you get lost, you can hover over something and it'll show you. So here, sessions are used to organize your map window containing related data sets. So we are going to come up here to Session and Maps, and we're going to head and add a map window. So we just said that I pulled in the SERFC QPE. And that is what I'm going to name this, because now I know exactly where my data came from and the type of data that it is. I really recommend that you name your particular map windows in such a way that you understand where the data is coming from. Now, as soon as we created that map window, you see all of the maps that we originally put in appear. So down here is where we're actually going to be focusing on. This is the subbasin, and then our state and the whole U.S. here. Now, let's say that you don't like, we have all of this information now, and you don't really like the fact that you've got the whole U.S. Easy enough. You can come back up here into your session defaults, and you can open up your mapping window, and you can come up here to USA, and you can say, you know what? I don't want this map anymore. I want to deactivate it. And now you just have the other maps. You will notice that there is a difference in coloration. When I identified the map that I wanted it to be basin outline polygraph, the basin polygons, it changed the color of it. So that's why our water basin, our watershed, and the subbasins are green, and the states themselves are black. Okay, enough about that. Let's add some data and actually see what's going on. So again, you have to open up your map, and down here where it says no data, right-click to select data. We are going to do exactly that. Now I said we downloaded a DSS, so we are going to select our DSS paths, and that brings up this pop-up window. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to click on those three little dots right there, and we are going to go to our data. Now you'll notice it does kind of start inside the main folder. Most of the time, unless you've identified it to start somewhere else, that's where it's going to start. Now there are a whole bunch of options in here where you can change the imported time constraints, you can change the filter. I just want all of the data inside of this DSS folder. I'm sorry, the DSS file. So I'm going to scroll through. I should have up to about, 1 October 2024. Now, you can select these and click Add Selected, and that'll move it to the bottom. Or since I want the entire thing, I'm going to click Add All, and it's going to select all of my DSS files, and it's going to push them to the bottom. So this bottom window is what's actually going to show up inside your MetVue Map window. Once I have that, I just click OK. And now we give MetVue just a few minutes, and there it is. You have created your very first MetVue project, and you have imported data. Down here at the bottom, you can see the calculated basin averages for each individual area. Oops. Another thing, if it doesn't automatically there and you want to zoom back out, you can right-click on the page, click Zoom To, and we're going to zoom to subbasins reprojected. There we go. So all of this data, these are the subbasin averages for the entire period that you're looking at. So there you go. You've created your very first MetVue project. Yay! This is a very good thing, because now we are ready to do all sorts of other fun stuff in later videos in this series. But if you have any questions, would like additional training, or need help, please feel free to visit the links below. Like and subscribe in order to make sure that you get updates every time we add a new video to this particular video series. And we can't wait to see you again. Thank you so very much for your time. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in later videos.